was I have bounced around from church to church, and it said cuz. I hope this ain't my relative. I don't know. But I have bounced around from church to church because I always find myself sleeping with multiple women within the body. I would like to stop, but can't, and got capital letters and exclamation, please help. Now, let me say this, and I thought about this when I was reading this, and this is with no disrespect. This is only to verify. And maybe you are, but I got to ask. First of all, are you saved? Trying to be funny. Are you born again? If you ain't sure, okay, let's get saved. All right? Now, if you are, and I'm only going on what this is, you know, you find yourself sleeping with multiple women within, you know, like you just can't stop. So I've got to ask. Because remember, we don't assume everybody who go to church is saved. What I've been saying for over 20-some years, you can stand in the garage, that don't make you a car. Now, if you are now, which you could be and hopefully you are, then you need deliverance. Now, let me say this. And now, usually people say, oh, that's a lust demon. No, it ain't just deliverance from lust. But with any repeated behavior, there's some other issues. See, it's easy to just pinpoint and say that person just got a lust demon or no. Anything that's repeated, there's some other issues there. And as I've been teaching the last couple of weeks, many of those things that falls under the umbrella of fear. You know, in other words, there's a fear that causes repeated manifestations. And one of the things about the spirit of fear, I've just recently taught this, it can manifest through lust, through greed, through addictions, low self-esteem, insecurities, envy, jealousy, bitterness. And then sometimes people act things out for attention, or sometimes people act things out to try to prove something to themselves or to others. You know, but it's still fear-based. So it's not about necessarily the lust. It's like, okay, if I'm repeating this, there's something going on. So I advise you, if you're not, get in a church that you trust, get some counseling, and then here's that word again, accountability. That is so vital, being accountable. See, because when you don't have accountability, you just do what you want. And then in your head, you be like, I ain't gonna do it no more. I ain't gonna do it again. And you mean that at that moment. But sometimes accountability will make you not do that. Sometimes when you're accountable to do it will embarrass you. Environment is important. You know, get around some people. We ain't talking about folks who won't judge you, but people who will keep you accountable. All right? Then above anything else, you have to really make the decision to stop. And that goes with anything, whether it's sleeping around or doing. One of the key things to anything in life and making significant changes is making that decision. I've taught for years, when you really, really make a decision about something, you 90% there. See, sometimes folks don't really make a decision. They just kind of mean it at the time. You know, I ain't gonna never drink no more. You done got sick and throwing up. I ain't gonna drink no more. This is my last step. But then after you sober up and a day go by, you back doing it. You really never made a decision. You made something because you were emotional at the time. But the key to really changing anything is really making that decision. And when you really, really make that decision, then you're going to kind of do whatever it takes to fulfill it. You make the decision, not anybody else. And that's important because sometimes people make decisions for the sake of others. You know, I want to be a good mother for my kids. No, you need to want to be a good mother for you. Because if it's based on that, then your kids judge you, you ain't a good mother. You're going to go back. So whenever there's change involved, you have to initially make that decision within your core. And that's how change actually starts, not because of outside things. Sometimes we make decisions because we got in trouble and all that other stuff. And then when the trouble simmers, then we end up going back to things. So initial change begins when I actually have decided to make that decision. All right? Let's see. So you do whatever it takes. And I've said this with other people before. Sometimes, you know, when you're dealing, especially sexual things, sometimes you have to avoid movies, certain music, and we're in a time now, social media. Sometimes when you're working on being delivered and built, sometimes you got to just kind of just get out of circulation, if you know what I mean. Now, once again, somebody said, take all that, see, then you didn't make the decision. You ain't ready yet. Because change is not going to always feel good. Because habits. When you're used to doing certain things, and now all of a sudden you change it, that's why usually outside of the miraculous power of God, whether it's an alcoholic or a drug addict, when they stop, they cold turn, their bodies, you know, it goes through. Because it's this change. Ask anyone, outside of miracle, you know, with God. But usually on their own, what do they call it when their bodies go through withdrawals? And even something like that, like this, a person go through a withdrawal because they're used to these sexual encounters. All right, so you do whatever it takes, avoid certain things that can feed that lust. And that's with anything. You know, it's saying sex, it could be anything. We're to avoid anything that can feed the flesh. You know, anything that can feed it. If I'm trying to get delivered from something or trying to get away from something, I need to avoid anything that could feed into it. Okay? It's like in the natural. If I'm trying to lose weight, guess what? I don't need to be at no buffets. I don't need to be looking on social media, seeing somebody cooking 7 steaks and 12 hamburgers and look at my cheese omelet. You don't need none of that stuff because you're feeding into it. You got to do whatever it takes. Anything that can feed into it, whether it's by hearing it or seeing it. I remember years ago, I'm sure I told it, I don't know how long ago. And this was, well, obviously, before I was married, but I was saved. And to this day, I don't get to see it as much as I used to, but I like the soap operas. You know, especially before I was saved. No, I know I'm the only one who liked the soap operas, especially in them days. General Hospital. That was the most popular show. Me and my cousins in them days before we used to say, we'll get high, and when we get high, we'll talk. Man, did you see General today? Yeah, what happened? I remember being in college. They had General Hospital on the TV. Now, why am I saying all of that? You know, stories can be kind of, especially in them days, it was more a little sensual. See, y'all think it is now. No, it was a little more then. And I remember I was saved, and I had to stop watching it because it started arousing things in me. I'm talking about the soaps. I ain't talking about pornography. The soaps. You know, I had to stop listening to secular music. You know, because I grew up with that. I was in a band. I had to, because that stuff was feeding. Turn off the lights. Ho, 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 ho. See, now some of you out there, it don't bother me. Oh, grasshopper. It's feeding it. It's feeding it. You don't know it yet, but it's feeding it. It don't take all that, Pastor. Yes, it do. How bad you want it. And you see, you do whatever it takes. Okay, gosh, let me. Then also remember this, like anything else, your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. And that's with anything. We're Christians, we always remember that. My body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. And you do them confessions like everything else. My body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. And God will help you. God will help you. And now let me say this too, because some people will think this, well, that person's got a lust problem, that's why you need to get married. No, that ain't the answer. Lust issue is not a sex issue. Because I've seen people, they thought that was the answer. I'm talking about Christians, and they didn't mean no harm. They said, boy, if you get married, then, you know, that'll kill that lust. No, it won't, because you can take lust into that marriage. And before you know it, you're going to be looking elsewhere. Because your flesh then got satisfied with that. I don't want sweet potato no more. I want some cake. This is real life, folks. I ain't write these questions, the people did. That's how it is.